Hello there, and welcome to Adonai in Art, where we look at temporary art and put it under the lens of the eternal artist. I'm your host, Noel Davison, and I am so thankful that you are here with me today. Win or Lose Wednesdays continue by the grace of God. Abba, thank you so much for giving me the endurance on this project. This is my passion project, but it still takes endurance because, man, starting your own podcast, editing your own podcast, sound mixing, coming up with these, it's hard. It's not very easy. But today, maybe I can help myself by quoting one of my favorite lines from a creator / director / writer / producer / half the voice cast of the show he created. I am talking about the creator of Gravity Falls, my all-time favorite show. And to give context for this quote that I'm going to say, this guy who created the show, his name is Alex Hirsch, and he was asked in a Disney Channel interview what fans could expect from Gravity Falls Season 2. And he said some things, but he ended the interview by saying, it's just going to be another goofy episode filled with silly jokes for kids. The gallon of sarcasm Mr. Hirsch shoved into that sentence is incredible and made especially hilarious because of the immediate context of that line. Gravity Falls Season 2 is when the series nosedived into dark moments, adult jokes, and some heavy storytelling. I'm talking about taxidermied animal heads bleeding while speaking Latin. I'm talking about abandonment issues, false identities. Oh man, Gravity Falls. I cannot wait to finally make that episode, but that's going to take some time. For now though, why did I bring up that line? I think for one thing, it's hilarious because it pokes fun at the idea that children's media can't be mature, that it can't be challenging, or it can't handle serious material, when we've now seen so many shows that have impacted people in all of those categories. And in my breakdowns of Win or Lose, I'm hoping that as I've talked about the previous two episodes, I've shown how Win or Lose fits that even though it's family material, it can still reach, it can still impact, it can still challenge, it can handle some really serious topics. So that's the first reason. The second reason I bring up this quote is because this episode is the time that I think the Win or Lose writers decided they really wanted to push the boundaries of the kind of topics children's media can handle. Unironically, this episode overwhelmed me while I was taking notes. The amount of details that are in every frame, the personality and style in the visuals, from the good moments to the downright depressing. And then there's family dynamics, there's social dynamics, there is, oh my gosh. Oh man, unscripted, this was a lot in the best way. The fact they fit all of this into a powerful 25-minute cohesive narrative, it is a home run of storytelling, and I am not sorry for that pun. They earned it. It was so stinking well done. This isn't my favorite episode of Win or Lose. I'm going to keep repping my God-fearing girl Lori till the cow comes home. But this is definitely one of their best episodes. I'd say it's Emmy-worthy in terms of what it can do. But okay, I've hyped it up, so no more hype. Let's bomb ourselves out in the best way possible with Win or Lose Episode 3, Raspberry. We open on a pop song playing in the background as we enter a bedroom. This song is Brand New Day by Campfire. It's one of those uplifting, ready for the day. It's a brand new day, it's a brand new day. Feeling like I just got paid, and nothing standing in my way. It's showing the excitement in our main character, her readiness to win and succeed, as we soon see as the camera pans down and we see our main character for the episode, Rochelle, wide awake in bed, tossing her softball up and down, waiting for her alarm to go off so she can go to game day. We're already showing Rochelle is super ready for the day. She is anticipating it with joy, even to the point where she starts transitioning to yelling softball phrases in the shower. She feeds her baby brother, uses her toothbrush like a bat. And while Rochelle is eating her breakfast, Vanessa, her mom we saw from last episode, immediately gets out her phone to record mommy moments. Though ironically, we see Rochelle go open wide and put some cereal in her mouth. And then she starts brushing her teeth. Then Rochelle also asked that if she has everything for her day, if she used the bathroom, which Vanessa goes, yeah. Actually, wait a moment, and runs inside. Rochelle even has her mom say, "ah," to eat. And this is only the first of the many examples we're going to see of the switcheroo of their roles, how the daughter is acting more like the mother and vice versa, which is funny now and is going to be really sad later. But just in case that name doesn't ring a bell, Rochelle was Lori's super encouraging friend from episode 1 and the one who cheated on a test in Frank's classroom. So we're going to finally see her perspective on that. And we start, before any of that, with Rochelle heading off to work at the softball concession stand. We see how used she is to this repetitive work schedule she has by her hanging up her bag, tossing her keys on the counter. Rochelle also pulls out her phone and goes onto an app called Coinks with a money-shaped pig, like piggy bank. Clever. And it shows that Rochelle only needs $60 more for her goal. And we don't know what that is yet, but Rochelle is getting ready to work the concession stand, and she acts so much like an adult from her first frame to now that she literally personifies into an adult with like a giant green pantsuit, 80s shoulder pads, her braids grow, and even her hat changes. And then she opens up shop. I really like this idea that it symbolizes her age, because we've already seen through her body language and her speech that Rochelle is much more mature than her age might imply. One that she has seemingly had to grow into. But then after the title screen, we get a montage of Rochelle working the concession stand, precisely answering questions about where food comes from. Some lady is like, "Hey, do you got any of those thin hamburgers?" She's like, "You mean hot dogs?" Yeah, one of those. And she does a good job of getting people to buy stuff. She's very charismatic, smooth talking. At one point while she's doing this montage, she holds up the tip jar and says, "Help me play next season?" It's a good way of naturally explaining what her goal is on her Coinks app. And during this, we meet a little boy named Ira who comes up to her and says, "Do you want me to tell you how hot dogs are made?" And before he can say anything, his sister pulls Ira away, whispering to him not to tell people where hot dogs come from. No one cares about that loser. That moment will be important later. But then we also see our favorite soda prophet show up, Ido, and he wants to buy a 2-liter of Orange Crush or whatever it is, but he's short on change. Rochelle says, "Sorry, that's not enough," and Ido starts to drop his head, sadly turn away. Then Rochelle pulls some coins out of her tip jar to help him. And I like this little moment. It shows that she has a generous heart, one that we're going to see get exploited later. And then out in the field, Lori runs going, "Hi, Michelle," and she literally falls just waving. It's so adorable. I love Lori. And then Coach Jan yells at Rochelle. He goes, "Rochelle!" Which I don't know if that's implying the Afro-Latina heritage Rochelle has, or if it's just Coach Dan being weird. I don't know. But he tells her the game starts in 15 minutes. And Rochelle goes, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be right there." And it turns out she's waiting for her co-worker. But she's interrupted by a teen girl who goes up to ask if she has any more double nut cookies. And Rochelle leans down to look for them. In the second it takes for Rochelle to look for the cookies, the girl swipes a bag of chips off of the shelf. Thankfully, Rochelle's not an idiot, and she goes, "Okay, 1 bag of cookies and those corn chips behind your back. That'll be $5.25. The teen plays off her annoyance that she was caught, and she skips off to a teenage boy and, weirdly enough, a dude in a chicken mascot suit. We've seen him a couple times in the background of previous episodes, but this is not the last time we'll see him. He'll be back. Back. Cheryl, her coworker, finally arrives, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. There was a ghost of the house, and it was a whole thing." And while Rochelle says it's fine and assures her the cash is in the checkbox, Rochelle checks her phone, and she's reached her goal. And she's like, "Yeah!" I'm not sure how the phone detected cash in a tip jar, but like that's a nitpick in the grand scheme of things. Maybe she typed it off screen. But Rochelle excitedly proclaims, "I can play next season!" And as she leaves, we get this beautiful transition where she runs up into the air like there's imaginary stairs and transforms from her business self to her catcher self. And as she falls, she catches a softball getting someone out. Like, someone gif that, please. If that hasn't become a gif already, or if it does exist, send it to me. She even yells, "Let's go." And you know what? She deserves that phrase. Beautiful job, animators. That segue was so satisfying. And we see one more shot of the chicken man dancing in front of people in the stands. This shot was in episode 1, but it was really just establishing the setting. But now we're aware of this guy. He pulls out a karate move, and I'm still not sure, even after watching this entire 8-episode series, who this guy's a mascot for, or if He just had a chicken suit that he was wearing, but all I know now is he's blocking people's view of the game. He is being quite a cocky individual. I don't know how many more of these I have in the script, but I'm gonna keep saying my chicken puns, dang it. But back to Rochelle, she is in complete control of the softball game. She waves her bat doing some flips like a Jedi. She hits a home run, fittingly with multiple gold stars on her helmet. She yells out commands to her team when she's in catcher position, and even tells our adorable umpire, Frank, "Hey Frankie, don't go easy on us." She loves the challenge. Rochelle is in complete control of this moment. She feels that way anyway until a tall softball girl steps forward on the enemy team, shaking the ground with every step. Rochelle sees that and goes, "We don't got this! Go back! Go back!" And this opposing lady hits the ball. And this turns out to be the catch that Lori trips and doesn't get. But when Kai gets it, Roche yells for her to immediately send it home. And with a beautiful spiral, that softball lands right in Rochelle's glove. She catches it and wins the game. With this amazing moment, she goes, "Yeah!" And she turns toward the stands to show her mom, and she's turned away. The mom is staring at her phone, her back turned to the stadium. If you remember from last episode, she came to support her daughter, but she was too busy staring at her phone. In this episode, we see her just not paying attention, instead favoring the audience. But we're going to see in the next episode, which is Vanessa's, that she actually did see Rochelle catch the ball. But in this head turn, maybe all Rochelle saw was the phone. She didn't see any implication of Vanessa cheering her on. We're going to catch up with this phone problem later, but for now, Rochelle's able to turn around and get the full support of her team, who run up and do a giant group hug celebrating their victory, and Lori trips. Oh, I love Lori. I need to stop saying that, but I just love every second of Lori. It's because she's a Christian and because she's so adorable. I wish she was my real life daughter. But there's a great sound mixing trick I want to comment on too. The music dims when Rochelle is staring up at her mom, and it immediately zooms back into focus when she celebrates with her team. That was some good sound mixing. Coach Dan's speech, where he's talking about there being a slim difference between a winner and a loser. But while Roche is listening, she notices a giant rip coming from the sole of her shoe. Adding on from her Coinks app from the concession stand, it seems to imply that money isn't exactly Rochelle's friend. Coach Dan calls for all the parents to huddle up because they need to have a little meeting, which is when Roche turns to see Vanessa sitting on a park bench far away, talking over the phone about how being a mom is so difficult, ironically giving her baby no attention and being a bad mom. This also causes Vanessa to miss Rochelle calling for her, and that forces Rochelle to go back into her business persona, growing up into the adult that Vanessa isn't being. When Coach asks if her mom will be joining, Rochelle says, "No, I got this, Coach. She's just dealing with a baby blowout." And Coach goes, "Okay." He reveals that due to travel tourneys, money will be going up, to everyone's dismay, and that especially surprises Rochelle. The coach says, "So the new price is gonna be and then the camera zooms in a glare of doom as Rochelle hears the new price like a threat of $1,600. Coach's face is even illuminated by the neon green number behind him, possibly symbolizing how Roshi sees this number as a threat. And those words cause something to change in Rochelle's world. Her hat and changed business glasses begin floating off her head. The softball she was holding begins to float up too, unraveling the seams the higher it goes. Rochelle holds out her hand to it, but as shadows begin forming around her, the ball is just too out of reach. We cut to black and fade in with Rochelle back to her normal self, and she's taking deep breaths. More on that later. But she sees that for now, the softball is still in her hand and intact. Overhearing loud gulps, Oda the soda prophet stands just a few feet away from her, and after a satisfied his head snaps towards Rochelle with glowing orange eyes like the man's an owl, and he gives one prophetic warning. "Beware the chicken." And away he goes. Thanks, Odo. We'll see you next episode. We cut to Vanessa driving like a bat out of heck as she's bragging about how good Rochelle is doing. She's an honor roll student, soon to be champion at softball. And after swerving into her driveway, even knocking over a trash can in the process, Vanessa proclaims that she has such beautiful children. Meanwhile, Rochelle has been putting in her new money goal, and she needs another $600. Rochelle starts to explain the situation. Well, gets a couple words in, and then Vanessa interrupts her by asking if she would grab a box from the back seat. Rochelle does, and we hear a sound effect come up from Vanessa's phone. She's recording. And it turns out this box is a gift that reads, "So proud of you, Roshi. Love, Mom." And what's in the box? Well, before we see that, Vanessa adds, "What's that? Someone must love you." Upon opening it, the prize shines bright red. They turn out to be fancy sports shoes called Red Valkyries. Rochelle is excited at first. She's like, "Red Valkyries, thank you, thank you, thank you." There's even a ruby glint in Rochelle's eyes as she looks at them, until her maturity makes her ask, "Wait, how did you pay for these?" Vanessa starts by saying that she'll just take extra hours, implying a lack of coffee shop food by saying, "I'll have coffee at home, no avocado toast." Roshi doesn't buy this, and with a "Mom," Vanessa pauses and says, "I'll cancel my gym membership." Roshi responds, "They did that last Christmas." Next excuse comes in. "Fine, no more online shopping." "You've been online shopping?" "No!" That's Vanessa's response, just that defensive, childish, "No!" And Roshi gives the mother glare, so Vanessa slumps down sad. So she doesn't have the money, and hasn't been stewarding it well. But why? We might get a hint soon. Once again, Rochelle has to be the parent in this relationship and goes, "It's okay, Mom. We'll make it work. We always do." Vanessa seems satisfied with the answer and asks, "Well, I saw you speaking with Coach. Is everything okay?" Roshi deflects it after what she just saw and says, "Oh, it was just some paperwork." And upon Roche saying that I handled it, Vanessa calls her so responsible, but Rochelle barely hears that. It becomes muffled, distant. Rochelle is holding a softball that says "Number 1 Mom," and it begins floating again. Soon the whole car begins floating, and then the pieces start coming apart on it. The area around Michelle becomes bleak and dark, but she still turns toward her mom's phone and puts on a fake smile for Vanessa's Instagram followers or whatever, showing the sneakers. And another great detail, we see Vanessa's phone as she's live streaming her daughter. And from the phone, the world looks so colorful. It's being filled with the evening sun. But outside the phone, what we can mainly see, Rochelle's car is still lifting, breaking apart, and there is pure bleakness surrounding the poor girl. We cut to the next morning at school, where Rochelle is venting about getting these super expensive cleats to Lori while they toss their softball back and forth. Roche says, "I was like, Vanessa, really?" And I find it interesting she doesn't call her mom with Lori, maybe allowing her to unmask and call her how she sees her, not as her mom, her authority figure. But while Lori clumsily catches the ball, she acknowledges, "Yeah, but the shoes looked pretty cool." Rochelle's softball slides to her floor-level locker, which is outside, and she asks how Lori even knows about the sneakers. And Lori goes, "Oh, I follow your mom's account, don't you?" And so we see the video that comes out. Rochelle reacting to the Valkyries, a text box hangs above Rochelle that says, "Thank you, Mom," with 3 exclamation marks, and Rochelle's "Thank you, thank you, thank yous" become accompanied by a cat filter and a stream of vomiting cat faces that go meow, 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 as they fly out. Once again, we're seeing a specific image that Vanessa cares about and projects about her family life. And just to give a bit of context later on, I don't think she sees that. She just sees it as trying to show her amazing daughter and accomplishments, trying to share life, what social media is supposed to be about. But in the context of this episode, Rochelle is seeing it as the facade, how it's disguising what's really going on. And we'll discuss more of that later when we get to Vanessa's episode. But for now, Rochelle is horrified that Vanessa even posted that while Lori is laughing about it. She's like, "The vomiting cats get me every time." And Rochelle makes an interesting comment here. "Sometimes I wish I didn't have to be the parent, you know?" So she's aware of the dynamic. And it made me wonder just how many kids are struggling with this same dynamic in real life. And Lori simply responds, that's fair. I relate to that one. The response of a friend that shows they're listening, but they don't normally want to press forward with the topic, maybe because it's awkward or they just don't know what to say. Lori then immediately changes it to go, "Do I look buff, Rochelle?" possibly taking place from when Sweaty was overlooking Lori in the first episode. And Rochelle comes in with a very kind, fun response. Yeah, girl, have you been juicing? Which Lori awkwardly responds, but no. And I just feel so bad because we see these great qualities of Rochelle. She's not only great at softball, great in business, very mature for her age, she's great at being an encouragement, just like we saw in the first episode. And it makes me wish Lori had given more back. And I don't say wish as in, oh, the writers should have shown Lori being more encouraging. It's just more in that human, Lori, this is your friend. You should be giving love back, especially because under the surface, you have the love of the eternal Father you could give. And I still stand by what I said about not pushing Lori to be the perfect Christian standard, absolutely. But this is still an important flaw in the character we can learn from. If someone says something heavy to us like, oh, I wish I didn't have to be the parent, or sometimes I've even seen this with mental health issues where another peer may say, man, I just hate my life. I wish it was all over. Most of us don't take that seriously. And so I think it's a call that, like, we should take this seriously. Let's press forward even if it's uncomfortable. Let's ask about it coming from a place of someone who wants to give help. But enough preaching on that side. Lori does try and end on a high note, though, by switching back to Vanessa before walking off. Hey, at least you have cool cleats for the season. Rochelle mutters to herself, oh, yeah, next season. Hearing a notification beep from her Quinks app, she looks up and the pig avatar is frowning next to negative $600. Suddenly, things start to dim again. We hear Lori distantly yell, see you at lunch, Roche, but it's distant, and the world around her show begins to lift off even worse. This time, her world is turned sideways. Lockers fling open, water bottles and soccer balls float out of lockers into the sky, and Rochelle starts to struggle even to walk to the hallway door, using the locker doors as her floor. Gravity is shifted, and it's all so topsy-turvy and painful. Suddenly, in the distance, she hears the muffles of one of her teammates approaching her. A tall, gangly teen boy in avocado socks, like knee-high avocado socks too. Turns out his name is Tom. He causes Rochelle to stumble and fall into the hallway door, though he's still standing on the floor, unaffected by Rochelle's chaotic gravity and loss of things. Tom asks if he can copy the answers off her homework because otherwise he's totally going to fail the class. Rochelle says that she doesn't do cheating, and even gives the wise response, and if I just give you the answers, how will you learn anything? Tom goes, oh, right, very true. I'll pay you $20. Rochelle does not budge to this, but in a panic, Tom goes, oh, okay, 30? $50, even sending her the money in that moment on her Quinks app. Caught up in the panic, Rochelle's thumb hovers over the accept button for $50 and decides to press it. In that moment, everything immediately shifts back into place. Gravity is restored, things fall back to the ground, and Rochelle is on her feet again. Okay, some stability. She persuades Tom that she can tutor him, and Tom goes, oh yeah, sure. Clearly he's not listening. He got what he wanted. A cheap way to get answers. Rochelle then goes, don't tell anyone this happened. Tom, as he is texting, goes, oh, I already told everyone, and then hits send to the message. He says, oh, I'm sorry, but of course the dude doesn't mean it. This is the first time we're going to see that Tom sucks. Avoid the Toms in your life, the leeches who only talk to you in order to use you. And it turns out Tom sent this to a hecking group text, so suddenly Rochelle's phone blows up with multiple texts about homework, even showing emojis of like, book, question mark, money? This transports her to the same animation style that Frank had on the dating app, implying the cyber world. But for Rochelle, she's sitting at a desk with a giant Coink mascot in the background. She looks like she's in some kind of room, implying that this app is like her office, and avatars come pouring in asking Rochelle for help. Rochelle realizes, oh, there's a lot of demand here, and it seems like in this moment she's found her ticket to getting the next $600. So then Rochelle starts using her business skills in a group text. Struggling to make that grade this semester? Need help with that pesky book report? Meet me tomorrow morning in the music hall bathroom for Rochelle's speed tutoring. So then we cut to a giant line outside the bathroom, and as the camera brings us in and shows someone gleefully skipping out the door, we find Rochelle sitting on a toilet with a desk in front of her, her business persona back in full force as then she is helping people in line tutor. We parallel her concession stand montage with people asking for help now with homework, and the money keeps going up in her Coinks app. We then segue from the bathroom to Rochelle's home, where she's typing away on her laptop, and then as she rolls her swivel chair back, she's in the bathroom again. With each transition from El Baño to El Casa, she goes from her business persona, who acts like a professional, to the kid at home who's just trying to play softball next season by working like this. She adopts a fake business smile as people zoom in and out of the bathroom, with her grabbing money from off-screen arms and going back to her house, and she keeps working as Vanessa goes, "Watch Zane, mama's going out!" We even see Rochelle progressively get more tired, even slamming her face on the keyboard about to pass out from exhaustion. She also has 3 mugs around her, so she's definitely been chugging caffeine, and she even chugs 2 mugs in one gulp during a transition. And then she cuts to someone asking for a book report over Crime and Punishment. Poor Rochelle. The demand for help reaches even high schoolers who start going in asking for her to build science fair projects, and she even starts laying ground rules for her work. Rochelle starts laying ground rules for her work, saying no IOUs, absolutely no crypto, Chad. And there's been rap music softly playing behind this montage, and it hits its full crescendo when we see Rochelle's avatar doing a victory dance, money raining from her Coinks room, but her face is completely miserable. Even through her cyber avatar, we're seeing the complete sadness on Rochelle's face. And that's surprisingly the 3rd most depressing shot of the episode. Second being the shoes, and this one is only lower because it's sad but also pretty funny. But the montage ends, and Rochelle only needs $200 left. She slumps onto the bathroom counter, and she quickly morphs from business Roche to normal Roche. Before she even has a chance to rest, a toilet flushes, and who should poke his head up over a bathroom stall but Tom in the girls' bathroom. I mean, the layout's implied to be for females. There's no urinals. It's just a bunch of toilet stalls. And, like, yeah, okay, Rochelle is at the sink right now, so thankfully this dude didn't, like, lean over while she was on the can. But, like, when Francis did this, it was funny because that was his slithery personality. And also, he never invaded bathroom space. Tom snuck into a girl's bathroom to talk to Rochelle about cheating? Like, gross. Francis would not do this. I mean, okay, I could actually see Francis invading Frank's personal space on the John, but we haven't seen him do that. But we've seen Tom do that. He's literally acting like a peeping Tom. Is that why this character was named Tom? All right, we gotta get back on track. True to Tom's leechy nature, he asked Rochelle, "Are you okay?" And there's an intentional pause, and Rochelle looks like she's about to honestly respond. But of course, this is just stupid, leechy, peeping Tom, and he meant to say, "Are you okay? To help me pass my civics test?" And it turns out Tom wants Rochelle to pass notes in Mr. Brown's test. Yes, this is the same test we saw Frank give in episode 2. And at first, Rochelle is not having it. She's like, no way, not next to Mr. Brown. But what brings us into the reality we saw last time was Tom offering her $100. They go into the classroom, and Rochelle's only rule is sit behind me. That's it. Tom's like, why? He's like, just sit behind me. And then Kai immediately sits behind Rochelle because Tom felt the weird compulsion to grab 5 pencils before the test. Stupid, manipulative, leechy, peeping, needlessly preparing Tom, man. With the clock dramatically striking 3 times, we see 15 minutes pass as the test goes on. Rochelle glances back and sees Tom sitting there anxious as mess because I guess he couldn't even be bothered to put his name down. But she looks back when Frank is sharpening his pencils to pointed perfection. He even mutters to himself, "Pencils on the left, pens on the right. I don't want to get confused." His sharpening gives Rochelle the window of opportunity to copy the test answers. And after staring at her cheat sheet, taking in what she's about to do, she asks Kai to hand the paper back once Frank has dropped the picture frame into the trash can. As she looks back, the desks move far away from each other. It implies the danger and risk that Rochelle is feeling by even trying to pass this note. With a quick exhale and a whisper, she grabs Kai's attention and asks, "Hey, can you pass the paper back?" Kai, of course, is like, "What? No!" But Rochelle says, "Please, I need this." and so Kai reaches for the paper. But just like we saw last episode, Frank catches them, and in both girls' perspective, his face is furious, slightly covered in shadows, and he looms over them while he proclaims, "Unacceptable!" I want a special shout out to the animators for perfectly capturing the horror of when a student is caught by a teacher. It reminds me of the times I got caught cheating on tests, and I gotta say, just like a great capture of emotion there. So then we go to after school. Vanessa is asking Rochelle what happened. Her words are, "You can tell me if you messed up. I'd rather you be honest." And Rochelle starts by giving a half-truth. "I was helping a kid." And then it turns into a small lie that has elements of truth in it. It's still ultimately a lie because it covers up the real truth and it's hiding her part in it, but it's still kind of the truth. "I was caught in the crossfire. There was a note being passed and I know I shouldn't have, but this kid asked me to pass it." And there is the lie. Half truth, because yes, Tom wanted it passed, but she's clearly making it sound like she had nothing to do with it, that she didn't orchestrate it. Rochelle has covered for herself by withholding the truth of the circumstances leading to the note pass, and making it sound like someone else's fault to avoid her own responsibility. And before anyone responds by thinking, Rochelle didn't exactly lie, she just didn't tell the whole truth. Well, what's your heart posture in responding that way? I've been there. I've withheld the truth to protect myself, but at the end of the day, when we do something like this to hold ourselves back from getting the full weight of our actions, it's just as sinful as telling a whole lie. It's still choosing to not accept accountability for our actions. But unfortunately, Vanessa buys it and says, "Well, I understand, and I appreciate you for being honest, because I did not raise a cheater." But there's irony in that statement, isn't there? Did Vanessa even raise Rochelle? The context we've seen up till this point is that Rochelle is the most mature member of the household. And in character with that statement, Rochelle actually starts to admit the truth. She's like, okay, no, I need to be honest. But she gets interrupted by Vanessa doing another live stream immediately. And she tells Rochelle, "Say hi to my followers. I thought we could just get some mani-pedis, just between us girls," while looking in the camera and not at her daughter. And maybe that's the reason Rochelle thought she could get away with this lie. Her mom's attention is clearly not on being a real mother. At least that's what we see for now. We'll get our worldview shattered a little bit next episode, but this is still important to take in all perspectives, especially because we're being shown Rochelle's right now. And so she responds, "Wait, don't you have to work, Mom?" And this causes Vanessa to turn off the live stream and go, "So don't be mad." And Rochelle's business self immediately pops up. She goes, "Okay, what did you do?" Vanessa goes, "I quit." Vanessa's justification for this? That guy was a jerk. Besides, I really want to focus on being a content creator. And even after Rochelle scoffs at that idea, Vanessa says, "I'm a full-time influencer. I'd appreciate a little more positivity." But Rochelle, I think justifiably, gets heated enough to say, "You just can't make these decisions on a whim. You need to talk to me first, Vanessa." And that's when a horror movie strike comes in. Dark pink light surrounds Vanessa. She turns a full 180 degrees back at her daughter, and her beast mode is active again. She goes, "Vanessa? I am Mom, and you really need to chill out and trust me." And while she says this, Rochelle immediately shrinks down to her normal self in a nice little Mario degrading do instead of the full change. And Vanessa finishes this by saying, "I'm the adult." And a really beautiful moment happens. Beautiful of how well written it is, not because it's good. Angry tears start to well up in Rochelle's eyes. Then she lets out a simple sigh. Vanessa realizes Rochelle is hurting, but when she tries to reach toward her daughter, Rochelle backs away, wipes her tears, and sarcastically responds, "Sure, Mom," before walking away. So many powerful things were spoken without any dialogue beyond 2 words. Rochelle is furious. Her mom is not acting the way she needs her to. She's the only parent in the household. Vanessa is the only parental figure, but Rochelle is at an age where she realizes that she is failing that role. She realizes Vanessa is so caught up in her own image and her phone that she is missing the fundamentals to truly lead the household. Rochelle probably feels in this moment more than before, I'm doing everything. I'm having to pay for my softball team. I am barely able to get anything. I can't pay for next season. I don't feel like I can trust you because you won't even go to a 5-minute meeting for parents because you're on your phone. And then you buy me expensive shoes when you don't even have the money for it. And Vanessa sees that Rochelle is hurting. She doesn't know why, but she does love her daughter. She wants to help. But of course, by this point, the sarcastic sure mom, as Rochelle wipes her tears, is that she's putting her mask on, putting on a tough face because Rochelle feels like she has to. She doesn't trust Vanessa to be a mom. We've seen this already, but even now it's like, what is saying anything to you going to help? You quit your job on a whim. So of course I'm not going to trust you with what's going on. Vanessa is not the adult here. Rochelle has been the one having to do everything, and there is no sign that she can trust Vanessa. Rochelle enters her room. The camera is upside down as she enters, showing how everything has been thrown upside down. Rochelle's world has been flipped from normalcy and any struggle of peace. This is not the same girl who woke up in her bed, excited before her alarm for a game. This is one of defeat and of loss. And the second Rochelle falls on her bed, we overhear Vanessa say, well, sometimes you just gotta tell them who the parent is. This mujer immediately went to her followers to indirectly insult her freaking daughter. Instead of taking any accountability for her actions, she goes to her followers and goes, man, my daughter, sometimes parenting is so hard. Like, I am furious that she would do this to poor Rochelle. And that's what I think the intention of the show is, that you are in Rochelle's shoes of like, what is wrong with you, mujer? I would despise Vanessa so much. But episode 4 exists and it makes me see the person in her character. But this is still wrong. It's still hurting. And we're going to save Vanessa for next episode. And here, I feel nothing but pain for this poor girl. A girl who's had no help. Nothing is lifting off or coming apart right now, but you can feel the weight of Rochelle's pain. So Rochelle pulls out her phone, sees the remaining $200 that need paid by the championship game. Red light illuminates the red Valkyries in her closet. So she takes a picture of them and posts them on eBid for the same dollar amount. And she immediately gets a response from Bad Boy 2023. I love how non-subtle that name is. And as she hits the notification, we go back to Rochelle's cyber desk. Bad Boy 2023 is personified as this like Jawa with creepy glowing red eyes. He also has a distorted voice, and as he turns around, he has the face of a chicken. And his voice goes, I want you to meet me at this house. And Rochelle's like, all right, can I trust you? Be there and we'll have a deal. He says he'll buy them if he can get them by Saturday night, which is the championship game. And Rochelle accepts. We cut to the day of the championship, and in her Pickles uniform, Rochelle sneaks the shoes out of the apartment while Vanessa does dishes. A cute note is that her brother Zane goes, hello, which Rose shushes. And Zane goes, I love you, Chow. Rochelle yells, bye, Mom, while grabbing her keys and runs out. Taking the bus, we see Lori practicing on the field by herself. And Rochelle goes, that crazy girl. And as she reaches for her phone, likely to call Lori, she realizes it's not in her bag. Her cell phone is at home. And as we're gonna learn from next episode, that's not Rochelle's fault. That was not a rush. And when she realizes she doesn't have her cell phone, she screams to the sky, and we zoom out to her on a distant island, symbolizing how she feels so lost and helpless without her pocket TV. And I laugh, but to be fair, that's how all of Gen Z and Alpha feel without their phone. I'm still learning to fight that. Like, I'm literally looking at my phone right now as I say that. Curse you, Pocket TV. I probably shouldn't say that. They're always listening. Anyway, the sky looks black and gloomy as Rochelle starts walking the streets. Even the streetlights are scarily dim, already showing that, yeah, Rochelle should not be here. And Rochelle keeps repeating the address to herself as she walks. Then she hears a quack, and thus the chicken man sits on a car, tilting his giant head like a horror movie monster while staring at her. I have no clue why he quacks, by the way, when he's called a chicken, but I don't know, maybe it's because this dude character is the same thing as his voice, that he's a quack. But Rochelle repeats to herself, beware the chicken. So the Soda Prophet does have listeners. And then she asks if this is where to meet Bad Boy 2023. And in response, the chicken runs into the house, which is pouring red lights from the window. Creepy. What is this, Penguins like lounge? And Rochelle even yells, well, can't we just do this outside? But the chicken's already gone. With a sigh, Rochelle goes into her business persona and opens the door. Thankfully, it's not Penguin's Lounge, but it is a high school party. The chicken stares at her until Rochelle sees him, like this friggin' creep, and he motions for her to follow. Rochelle moves past boys, goofballs, and even the teen she saw in the bathroom during her speed tutoring. She gets excited by the teen, and she promises to be back, probably enamored by this cool kid. And then she enters the very yellow, misty garage, and we see 3 teens, including the teen thief from the beginning, Chicken Man, and Bad Boy 2023 himself. The color is probably giving the vibe of their shadiness, but it also makes me think of the pea yellow from the original Daredevil show. Yes, I have been watching it since Grant and Abby told me I wouldn't be holy without it, so be prepared for those episodes. But getting back to Win or Lose, Rochelle recognizes them as the thieves from the concession stand, and they do their deal. When she shows them the shoes, Bad Boy says, "How'd you find them? They're like sold out everywhere." Rochelle responds, "Yeah, I'm really lucky," as she closes the box. Love the hidden true meaning behind those words, especially as we see Vanessa's message on the box as Rochelle says this. The horrible luck from a mom that cares more about spoiling her kid for her own attention, not because of selfless love. Love is not self-serving, like 1 Corinthians 13:8 says. And even though, again, I keep saying it, Vanessa, as we're going to find out, does really mean well, but all we've seen from Rochelle's perspective is not love. Something that Vanessa is going to have to address in her story. But I promise we're sticking to episode 3. It turns out the teens know who Rochelle is as well, and they revealed they actually don't want the cleats. They want the keys clipped to her fanny pack. They know she works the concession stand, so if she lets them steal the food in there, she can get the $200, simple as that. To symbolize the rising tension, Chicken Man rises behind Rochelle like a horror movie monster, and Rochelle immediately goes, whoa, no, I won't help you steal. And the teen girl responds, well, it's no different than cheating. Oh, sorry, tutoring. Boom! Rochelle hits the epiphany wall. She starts to see the garage lift up around her in this moment. Her keys start lifting off her fanny pack. And so, Rochelle realizes, what am I doing? You see it in her face. And then she uses her small talk to hopefully get her out of this. He says, wow, that is a pretty good plan. Who was the genius that came up with this? Bad Boy starts to take credit, but of course the other two chime in to say it was their idea, with Chicken Man talking in quacks. And a distraction comes in through the young boy Ira we saw at the beginning, who says, finally, I found you. You guys want to play Smash or something? And this immediately gives Rochelle the window of opportunity to roll under the garage door and bolt with her red Valkyries. We overhear the teens yelling, oh crap, we need to catch her. She knows too much. And soon a car is following Rochelle into the night. The lights are on. It's all dim and creepy as this thing is roaring behind her. And Chicken Man is at the wheel, so it's a miracle these teens don't die. As Rochelle runs from them, her entire world begins to lift around her. Basketball hoops, cars, even the road she's running on begins to lift up, causing it to look like hills. Rochelle starts to dodge around floating objects, using her incredible softball agility to avoid the floating objects. But in one moment, a window of opportunity where she looks back, a floating plant knocks her glasses off her face, and they get crushed by Chicken Man's car. Rochelle keeps running, even using her topsy-turvy world falling into chaos to roll into an alleyway, but the car just keeps coming after her. And at one point during the chase, we're shown a faraway perspective where she's running down a road on a hill, literally showing she's on a downhill spiral, and the hill itself begins to rip apart and float away. It's like the apocalypse is happening in Rochelle's mind. Seeing an open drain used to clear out rainwater, she rolls into it, narrowly avoiding Chicken Man's arm. And since Chicken Man swerves so close to the side of the road, his mascot head gets swept off by a branch, falling with Rochelle. And she starts falling into pitch black. No hill, no road, just darkness. This is where Rochelle's choices and life have led her to. She does land on the side of the hill and roughly lands at the bottom. Her knee is bleeding. The sole of her right shoe is completely torn, and her keys are gone. Chicken Man's dark head gives an evil quack holding up the keys, and he drives off. Looking down, Rochelle sees her broken shoe, and the next scene, she starts running in her red Valkyries, desperately trying to make it to the championship game. She sees the stadium in the distance, she hears her teammates chant, but it starts moving farther and farther away from her. She stops running to take a deep breath, and then she sees a payphone near a closed business. She tries to call, but she realizes she has no change on her. Thankfully, the soda prophet is there to hold up change, which Roche gratefully accepts. She calls Vanessa, and while it rings, Rochelle whispers in desperation, Mom, please pick up the phone. Please pick up the phone. And the camera begins to pan away from her, as the streetlights flick off one by one, until the last light becomes a spotlight on Rochelle, showing how completely alone she feels, with no mom, no phone, no keys. She's completely alone. And that's how the episode ends. The ending song is Meet Me Halfway by Francie Richard, and as I listen to the lyrics, they seem to make me think it's Rochelle talking to her mom, saying, I know we haven't met eye to eye, but can you meet me halfway? I'm drifting. I'm lost. Cut a hole in my pocket and let the sun shine out. That idea that this girl is lost. And it makes me ask, in Rochelle's life, in our context, how does our road to rock bottom often feel so smooth? How do we glide along, not feeling a huge difference, and then suddenly we hit rock bottom with a plummet? I love the shot of Rochelle falling in complete darkness for that reason. Like, I don't love seeing her fall into it, but the fact that it happens is so powerful. She was literally going down a downhill spiral, and she falls. How does our road to rock bottom often feel so smooth? It wouldn't be fair to answer that statement by laying the blame on one person, because people love doing this in real life. It is an easy trap that we can fall into. We could look back at this episode and say, well, it's the coach's fault because he made the price so much bigger. Or maybe we can go, well, clearly it's Tom's fault. He's the one who pressured her to cheat and act so unloyal and hustle and lead her to Bad Boy 2023's house. Or we could say, no, it's Vanessa's fault. She was irresponsible with her money, with her job, and as a parent, and it forced Rochelle to make these actions. Or we could say it's the teenager's fault because they did that and blah, blah, blah. We just can get caught up in pointing fingers at different people. And I get it. All of those elements are true. There are different variables that hit poor Rochelle like a truck and started to make her life feel unstable. And that's why I think the world started to float and break for Michelle whenever she became overwhelmed. It felt like everything was coming apart. It felt like she had no control on her life. So whenever things like this happened, they started to come apart. What made sense in the natural order of her life didn't. It was losing its grip. And she's not entirely wrong. She's not entirely wrong that she didn't have control on her life. And she's not grounded in these moments. It makes sense that when she starts her cheating hustle, that's where she starts to feel grounded again. It's like, okay, I have something I can hold on to. I have some semblance of control over to get this money. And she feels like she has some stability and control. That's why I think she's willing to mess with these shady feelings that come from compromising her morals. Because Rochelle might be thinking in her head, I know this feels wrong now, but it's going to be worth it. When I get to play next season, I'll never do it again. I'm doing a wrong thing now so I can do this right thing and I'll never have to do it again. I don't know. They never say anything, but it seems to be the way her mind is going, why she continues to keep cheating. That, okay, I'm going to get a lot of money from this. It's just one more time. But that's where it is. That's where the lie comes in. Because Rochelle doesn't have anyone to blame for her actions but herself. What? But Rochelle just made a few mistakes. She only cheated a few times to play softball. Was it really that bad of Rochelle? Yes, it was. Yes, she was dealt a bad hand. Yes, It is not solely her reason her life goes apart. No, it was just unfair circumstances, the sins of other people, and I completely understand and sympathize with why Rochelle chose to do it, but she also could have chosen not to give in. She could have said, no, I'm not going to cheat, even if it hurts me. Even if I can't play softball next season, I won't stoop to your level. I won't compromise my morals for this. It was those small justifications that led to her bigger steps into darkness and the shady decisions. And that is what leads us to death. That's a big word, but it's 100% true. That's how we get pulled into debt. Those little justifications of, well, what's just one bank robbery? What's just stealing this one thing? What's even hurting this one person? Okay, maybe even killing this one person. It's a rabbit trail that can lead us straight to hell. You want a real life example of how compromise leads to destruction? So you don't think I'm crazy and rambling to the extremes? Let's look at the outline of the life of a guy named Lot. He was the nephew of a guy in the Bible named Abraham, and when the two moved away from each other so their tribes could have peace, Abraham told Lot to choose a piece of land to call his home, and he would take the opposite side. Lot saw that the Jordan Valley looked beautiful and well watered, so he decided to camp there. And we hear from Genesis chapter 13 verse 12, Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. The next verse even gives context to how problematic it was that Lot was even near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. And Lot chose to live near them in the valley. Well, okay, he parked his tent far away from them. He may be in the same general area, but he's not actually living with them. He's not condoning their wicked actions or even associating himself. He's just living as in their land, but as far away as he can, right? So that's still okay. Well, the very next chapter gives us some new context where 5 kings invaded Sodom and Gomorrah, and we read that the enemy took all of the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, all their provisions, and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. It doesn't say he was in the Jordan Valley. Now Lot is dwelling in Sodom. He was now living in the city, at least close enough to the city that the kings would have considered him a part of the people. And yes, there was also the connection of Lot to Abraham as his nephew, because Abraham was a well-known figure. But we had just established the Jordan Valley and Sodom as different things in the previous chapter. And so they could have wrote he was dwelling in the Jordan Valley near Sodom. No. He was in Sodom. Well, okay, he was dwelling in this wicked city, but he's just in the city. That doesn't mean he's a part of the city, right? Fair enough. Okay, let's see what happens in the future. Moving on to chapter 19, verse 1. 2 angelic visitors come to the city of Sodom to visit Lot. These 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. Okay, at first reading this all the way back when I was a kid, I thought, well, okay, yeah, he is living there, dwelling there, so why is it a big deal he's sitting at the gate? And then I learned from David Guzik, a pastor and commentary writer, Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, indicating that he was a civic leader. The gate area of an ancient city was sort of a town hall where the important men of the city judged disputers. They conferred with one another and supervised those who entered and left the cities. So if we keep this information in mind, if we're to believe it, that means Lot went from living in the valley as far away from Sodom to dwelling in Sodom, and now he is a leader in Sodom. He allowed compromise after compromise after compromise until eventually the city he allowed himself to have power over was destroyed by God's wrath. And Lot could have died because he allowed himself to dwell in the city of wickedness. He lost the city. He lost his wife, who loved the city more than her life. And eventually, he was left in a cave with just his 2 daughters. And those 2 daughters then decided to get their father drunk and commit unspeakable actions influenced by these men from Sodom who wanted to commit those unspeakable actions on the angelic visitors. Lot allowed each shady choice to weasel him closer and closer to the pit until eventually he plummeted. And while I used to think Lot was a wicked person in his own right, 2 Peter corrected my perception of him. Because during all the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah, Peter wrote that God rescued righteous Lot, who was greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked. For as that righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds that he saw and heard. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 7 and 8. I admit I struggle believing that, but it is God's word, which means that what he said is true even if I don't immediately believe it. So surrounded by wickedness, Lot was still a righteous man. It wasn't his fault for Sodom's wickedness. It wasn't his fault for his daughters. Their choices were still their own. Even if he allowed them, he was still not at fault for them. No, Lot's fault is that he continually allowed compromise. He allowed his morals to loose just that little bit each time until he too lost the ground beneath his feet and plummeted just like Rochelle did. That's why it's so important. The teen girl said to Rochelle, well, it's no different than cheating. Oh, sorry, tutoring. Because that's the moment Rochelle realized what she was doing, how she was acting no better than these teenage thieves. She didn't make up the lie, but she listened to the lie. She seemed to gain a part of the world that she wanted, but like the famous verse from Matthew 16, verse 26, Rochelle forfeit her soul to try and gain even a portion of the world. And that lie pushed Rochelle forward until eventually, again, she lost the ground beneath her feet. Satan's breadcrumbs eventually allowed her to keep bending the rules, cheat just this one more time, and she fell in the pit. Why did I just bring Satan in? I haven't talked about him at all. It is everyone's fault. Everyone had a part to play in these actions that hurt poor Rochelle. And there's another figure we haven't talked about. One that does this in real life, either orchestrating or allowing the situation to give him power. And that's Satan. From the very beginning, Satan has been lying to humanity with cunning subtlety. Way back at the very first sin, Satan spoke to Eve and said, "Did God actually say, 'You shall not eat of any of the trees in the garden'?" That's not what God said. God had said they could take from any tree in the garden, just not the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But Satan knew how to plant that first seed of doubt in Eve's mind. He could have bluntly just said, "You don't have to not eat that," but that's not effective. Satan knew Eve's weakness to plant that doubt. One that could tempt her moral compass to define God, bend it, and justify a wrong action. And Satan loves to do this with each and every one of us. I could tell you so many stories of hurting girls, insulting people, all because Satan was able to take my surrounding elements and use it to cause me to sin. Rochelle is not guiltless, but we see the casualty of her life in this moment because Satan used the pain of the world and brought down more pressure until she caved in, all using this simple, kind motivation to play softball as a means to hurt her. Solomon wrote this proverb in two different places, in chapter 14, verse 12, and chapter 16, verse 25. And I think it's because it's so important to remember. These proverbs say, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death." It leads us to death at the very end, but also leads us to rock bottom in present moments. It leaves us trapped in the fish's stomach. We're brought so low as to care for pigs for free and become so hungry. We start craving the slop they eat. We just want some food, but we choose to squander it. We choose to make these wrong actions that eventually lead us to a place where we just want some slop. Well, all right, Noel. You keep telling us that this slippery slope is wrong. Well, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do if we aren't able to do these things to help ourselves? How do we stop ourselves from falling into this trap? Well, there's this wonderful soul who spoke through a man 2,000 years ago. And this man was writing to a church who needed to know how to be strong against their incredibly immoral city of Ephesus. This city was surrounding the church with sexual immorality, wickedness, and encouraged them each day, just like Rochelle, to let their morals slip even a little. Just take that one little thing. That won't ultimately hurt you, but would send them to death. They were so wicked that before 100 AD, Ephesus was wiped out, and likely by God's wrath over the city. And the wonderful soul that spoke through this man gave the church a solution. And that same solution applies to us. To stop ourselves from compromising our morals, we need to obtain the right armor. Not Frank's armor. That was useful in some moments, but as we saw with Frank, it's bad when we wear the armor too much. No. We need a better armor. We need the best armor, the one that will help us stand firm against the temptations to compromise our souls. In this world, we will face tribulation. We will face unfair situations. We'll be dealt a bad hand. But if we follow the wonderful soul who gives us this armor, we can take heart, for he has overcome the world. We can put on a chestplate of righteousness, so we can stand with a firm moral compass over our hearts. Yes, difficult moments will come that will try and knock us down and tempt us to corrupt our morals, to take that little cheat forward. But that's where we can hold up the shield of faith. And like Frank did to all the angry parents in episode 2, we can stand by our choice to be righteous and move forward. And we need to wear the belt of truth with it. And look, when I hear belt of truth, I didn't understand what that meant until literally the Holy Spirit opened my brain to it while thinking about this. Because what's a belt's purpose? It holds up our pants. It keeps them from slipping. So by wearing the belt of truth, we stop our morals from slipping. We stop our moral code, our conscience from falling. And we hold up our faith and don't stray from what we know is right. We fight back with the sword of the Spirit so that when we are tempted to cheat or lie or break our morals or slip just a little bit, we swing back and go, heck no, I'm not doing that awful thing. And how do we hold our ground against these tough moments if we don't compromise our morals? That's where we wear the gospel of peace like shoes that can keep us unmoved, that can hold our ground because we have peace even if we don't get money to play softball next season, even if we aren't going to have crazy shoes, even if our parental figure is acting irresponsible and not giving us the love that we need, even if we don't have the immediate answer to our problems. God will take care of us. And how do we know that we're protected in all this? How can I trust to wear this armor that if I put it on, I will be okay? I will be secure. How do we know that God, this wonderful soul, will hold his promise and take care of us? That's where the last piece of armor comes in. The helmet of salvation. It protects our most vulnerable part of our body, our mind, our eyes, our life. And all those who trust in Jesus, who put their faith in Jesus, are protected by his blood. And though the helmet will be dented, though they'll be tempted to take it off because it seems so much easier and more satisfying to follow away from the armor, we will be safe when we keep it on. And to anyone who's listening to this right now, if you are feeling stuck in one of these situations, you don't know where money is going to come from next, if you're going to be able to pay rent next month, if you're going to be able to be a part of that sport next month, if you feel like your world is splitting apart and lifting up into the air, that you're not grounded, he sees you. He's been watching you struggle, and he's not doing it distantly, shaking his head, or just allowing pain. He's right there with you. He wants you to come to him with your troubles because he will take care of you. You can cast your anxieties on this wonderful soul because he cares about you. That's why the armor is there. It's not saying wear it so you don't act evil. No, he gives it as a gift because he wants you to live a full and complete life that you know isn't possible through compromising your morals. I remember hitting rock bottom. I remember when I lived life without the armor on and how I would plummet. But scripture says that even if we make our bed in hell, not even if we plummet, if we make our bed our resting place in that hole in darkness, God is there. So surely he is with you right now in your troubles. If you're the child who unfairly has to fill the adult position because your parent won't, if you're the one without money and are unsure of how you'll be able to pay for your next season, for your next sport, be able to survive, I promise you, he will take care of you. Because Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verses 28b to 30, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, and yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Even this great, amazing king was not arrayed like these flowers. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is gone, thrown into the oven, won't he much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? God lovingly cares for the flowers. The verses above tells us that he cares about the birds. So how much more will he care for you? Don't you know that the very number of hairs on your head are counted by him? That you are fearfully and wonderfully made? Because above everything God created, he was the happiest when he made you. Yeah, that was a bit of a rough one. But thank you so much for listening, especially if you made it all the way through this. This was a tough conversation, but if you enjoyed it or felt challenged by it, if it just encouraged you or in any way, I would deeply appreciate if you left a positive rating. Maybe share this with someone that you think should hear this. If you want to contact me, my email is in the show notes, and if you want to connect with me or any way, give any feedback, then hey, I'm always down to hear from you. But until then, until the next Win or Lose episode, may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Grace be with you all.